welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today our family and relationship expert from Healthy Families is here, Alvean Lyons, and she's going to tell you how to help make your child an MVP in life. Welcome.
Thanks, Robin.
This is a good topic.
Especially during the season with all the sports going on.
Yeah,
what a great
playoffs and March Madness coming up and
together.
Everything.
Absolutely.
Well, let's for a second talk about what an MVP is in the sports world, because I think that's where we're starting out, right?
Absolutely, and we're using that to kind of make it the perfect way for us to talk about it. So MVP really being the most valuable player is what you would be talking about if it were football or basketball or whatever. Generally, you would see it in team-related sports.
Okay.
But it really is about that person who, when it came down to the crux, they did a fantastic job. They pulled the team through. They were essential in making sure that it was a success for the team or a win, so to speak. So we're taking that notion and we're using that to talk about how we can help our kids win at life. You know,
life is a team sport, right?
Oh, no question about it, truly. And us as parents want to be part of our kids' teams these days. And all too often we're not as essential in the team as we really should and want to be. So we're looking at it from a parental perspective. What kinds of things could we do in order to make sure that we give our kids what they need so they can be the MVPs in their own lives? That when it comes down to it, they have figured out what they need to know in order to do this well.
And you know, this is going to apply to teams because
Absolutely.
Hampton Roads is a very sports-centric place. We have a lot of stellar high school athletes and folks that go on into the pros. And when you think about, we can do that in other areas as well. Our kids can be stellar at sports, they can be stellar at academics, they can be stellar at hobbies and talents and trades and all kinds of things.
Totally agreed. And quite frankly, we're also a military area. So we also know that nothing happens successfully in any mission unless you're working together as a team.
Right, it's so important.
Absolutely, and you get medals for doing that same kind of thing, but on the battlefield. So the reality is, you're right, it can be applied to so many different things in so many different ways that can all be valuable.
Wonderful.
So let's break it down.
Let's
just using those three letters, the M, the V, and the P.
Okay.
So let's start first with the M. Maximize your kids' strengths. Now, people are like, okay, well, what does that really mean? Well, what it really is the fact that anytime you put a microscope on anything, it gets larger. Anytime we put a great deal of focus on something, it gets larger. So we want to make sure that we're putting emphasis and focus on the things that we want to be larger in our kids' lives, identifying what they may have natural aptitudes for, what they genuinely enjoy, what are they interested in. Sometimes it's not crystal clear immediately,
right,
you know, depending upon the age of your kid and even their personalities. You know, some kids like a little bit of multiple things, which may mean that there are a couple different things that you're nurturing based on what their interests are at that period of time. Like I have a teenage boy who absolutely loves skating. So like he's always on his board outside when the weather permits. But then he'll go from that to something totally different that he's interested in for a period of time, but he always seems to come back to skating. He loves to be able to do that with his friends. So I know that when it comes to resources, I have to help him be able to afford some of the things that he needs to be able to do that. Well, even though we don't necessarily want to create a career in that, it does give your kids self-confidence to have things that they're good at. You know, it's not always about whether or not this can turn into the thing that can feed your family for the rest of your life when you're a grown man or a grown woman. Sometimes it's about the fact that when the kids get those little simple wins, it builds self-confidence for them to be able to pursue other kinds of things. We know from the research and the stats that kids who play in team sports and who are able to play in the band or the orchestra and have things that they find themselves to be good at, that they really enjoy doing, tend to perform better in other areas and socially do better in other areas.
Right.
So the reality is that there is some transfer benefit to being able to find things that your kids like and nurture those things. So we really want to try to put more emphasis on what it is that they have natural aptitudes for.
And one of the things I want to say is this isn't necessarily like crazy expensive. Like,
oh, no.
I have seen parents, we probably both have, whose kid is into dance this year and they spend, you know, thousands of dollars on dance and costumes and everything. It just means giving them that freedom to explore it, helping them explore it. And then, you know, if the interest shifts, what they've learned in dance, they can take that with them.
That's exactly right.
It's the confidence, it's the poise. There's a whole lot of things that they can learn as they go.
It's true, and sometimes it's even just the discipline of seeing something through to completion. Because a lot of times our kids will find little interests, but halfway into it, they're like, I'm not really in love with that anymore. Well, one of the mistakes we can make as parents is letting them quit things just because they're not interested anymore. You may not want to force them to continue it if this was something that, yeah, absolutely.
But you made a commitment to do this
for a season or for a
right.
particular period of time. You see it through to its completion, because life, when you grow up, requires that there are going to be some things that you don't really enjoy doing that you thought you might have liked, but you have to see them through to completion. You're not going to love work every day. As much as we all want to, we don't love it every day. But you have a job to do and people count on you. You got to see it through to completion. And when you're in a game, the MVP has to see the game through to completion.
Right, you don't give up because you're behind.
Just because you're behind, or you don't like the way that this worked out, or the coach isn't giving you the time that you thought you deserved, or they didn't pass you the ball, or whatever it is, you still don't get to quit. You're part of a team. And where life is concerned, you're part of a process, and you can't check out in life. You still got to see it through regardless of how you're feeling today. So we want to make sure that we give our kids opportunities to do the things they're interested in, put some real emphasis on those things, nurture them to the best of our abilities so that they can develop those wins that are beneficial in terms of the confidence and understanding that is going to be necessary as they grow older. So then we move to the V.
V.
Vision. Help your kids develop a vision. A lot of times we are good at what we're doing because we see where we're going. But if we don't have a vision for where we're going, we find ourselves floundering a little bit. And that is absolutely true for us as adults. When we don't know what we're going to do with our careers, we don't know where it is that we want to move to, we don't know where we want to live, we don't know whenever we're going through those things, we sputter a little bit, even as grown-ups. So imagine for a child not having any idea, today do I want to be a fireman, tomorrow do I want to be a teacher, next week do I want to be a doctor? Whatever it is, whatever they're working on, we need to figure out what is the vision for now. And that vision may change, and that's okay. We change our minds, they can change their minds. But while they think they want to do something, we need to help them figure out, okay, if you say you want to be a doctor, what does that really take? It's not just going to your doctor, they give you a lollipop after you stick your tongue out. That's not how they became doctors.
Right. You have to know science.
Exactly.
You have
there
to
are things that
memorize
go with that.
a lot of things, right?
Absolutely. You actually have to make an effort in school. When your teenagers are a little bit, you get to the teenage years, you actually have to study. Imagine that. You have to turn off your radio. You have to make sure that you're not on social media all day. You can't Twitter your way to any kind of college. There are things that you're going to have to do on a daily basis to move from where you are to where you think you want to go. But we need to identify, where do we think we want to go? And even if it's not the thing that we're completely on fire about, because we've talked about developing your kids' sparks, even if it's not the thing we're completely on fire about, if it's just a gentle interest, it still counts as a vision. And we will refine and tweak that as you go. So it's not about, okay, this is the thing that I came out of the womb wanting to do for the rest of my life. It's just, where do I think I want to go right now? And what can we do to help develop that particular vision? Because you move from a dream to a vision when you add a plan. And a lot of times people don't understand the difference between those two things. When it's just, I want to be famous, I want everybody to know my name. That's a dream. But a vision is, okay, well, what do you want to be famous for? I want to be famous because I was the first person to find the cure to cancer. Okay, wonderful, wonderful vision. Now, in order for that to be possible, what kinds of things are you going to need to do from here to there? Well, that means we might need to take some extra biology courses. We may need to do a little extra tutoring in science because it's not as easy as you thought it was. We may need to, during the summer times, get involved in some of these opportunities that exist in Hampton Roads. The Air and Space Museum has some great things that go on. There are science programs. We have STEM programs. There are things that we can do, even in this area, that helps to nurture that interest. It may not be identical to what it is that your child wants to do, but a lot of times there are partnering things or things that teach similar principles that are useful in that development to figure out, do you really want this? Do you want something even like this, or some kind of partnership towards that? So it's really about helping them find a place that they think they want to go, and then developing simple steps that are achievable for small wins along the way to that vision.
Okay, and those might also be things that would get you to other related visions.
It's true.
Like if my child wants to be a circus clown, maybe we look at other things as well and not hone down entirely
on the circus clown plan.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then that's a really great example, quite honestly.
Because you don't want to rule out everything but circus clown.
That is so true. Trust me, we need other options. You know, we don't have a huge circus here.
Or maybe we look at theater and we look at performing
exactly.
and, things like that.
What is it that you love about the idea of being a circus clown? And sometimes that's the question you have to ask your child. What is it that you love about being on stage? Is it actually the singing? Is it actually the performing? Is it the crowd? Because you may discover that what I love is the energy of people responding to me. It's really not the other things. Well, you can do that same thing as a professor. So the fact that you're wonderful at English and social studies, you can take that same aptitude in that area and your love for being in front of a crowd and put those things together, and you can teach at one of the local universities or even one of these major Ivy League universities where you have these wonderful lecture halls of hundreds of bright students who are interested in what you have to say. So sometimes it's talking to your kids to help figure out what is it about that thing that you love. You love helping people, you love serving people, you love being with people, you love being behind the scenes. There are 100 different things you can do that can give you that same thing. But it's our job to help them identify those things so that we can help them get to that vision.
Okay, vision.
V. So then we move to finally the P, performing under pressure. We talked as we started about the fact that what makes the MVP is how you handle yourself under the pressure of the game. So what we want our kids to understand is that there's always going to be pressure in life. There's always going to be a reason to quit. There's always going to be a reason to change your mind. There's always going to be a reason to doubt yourself. You're always going to find yourself at some point alone in your decision. Some point. And not because people have abandoned you, but because we have to reconcile our decisions sometimes. And in those quiet hours, we find ourselves, even as adults, really thinking about, is this working? Is this really what I want to be doing? Is it costing me too much in my life to be able to do this? Am I sacrificing too much? Am I not there for my partner or my kids? Have I spent any time with friends? Do I even have time for that anymore with some of the things that I'm doing? You will always have some mechanism of pressure that you'll experience, but it's how we handle that pressure that makes us the MVP. How do you make those decisions when it really gets tough? And knowing that there are going to be naysayers. I mean, heck, as a parent, there are times that we've looked at our kids and said, okay, honey, I don't think that's for you. We have those moments, and only to discover years later that they actually were great at it, and it really was for them. So sometimes we're wrong too, and we need to make sure our kids know we may be wrong sometimes. So believe in yourself no matter what we say, but do understand that there's some information that we can share from the experiences that we have that could be useful. And we want you to take those things into consideration so you prepare yourself as best as possible. But the reality is there's always going to be pressure.
There is, and we also need to teach our kids that they aren't perfect at everything. I mean, you know, all of us may have a kid who is either a sports star or an academic star, and everything looks like it comes easy. And then they hit that point where suddenly, you know, whether it's high school, whether it's college, whether it's a particularly tough thing, where they aren't the star anymore, where they have to work harder and have to learn or have to handle something in a different way, and it's very hard and scary.
It's a little jarring sometimes, especially for kids who were naturally good at so much. Like I reference my son because I know what it's like to have a teenage boy, and he's in an engineering program, and he was used to being good at things, and now it's hard. And he actually has to work much harder. So now it really becomes about discipline and commitment that really wasn't an issue when he was a bit younger. So you've got to give up some of the things that you really enjoy doing sometimes to spend the time to study, prepare, do the projects, write the papers, all of the things that are associated. That's a bit of a surprise for them sometimes. So they want, at those moments, that's when they want to change their mind.
Right.
Because it's hard. Okay, I don't know
wrong.
that I really want to do this anymore. Maybe this is really not my thing. But that can't, and that's when we talk about the making sure you understand that the pressure is going to be there, because that's not enough of a reason to quit.
Right. Let's talk about how you can do that.
Absolutely. And maybe what help you may need from me in order to do that job. Because if it's an issue of we need to get you some tutoring, or we need to arrange for you to be able to stay after school or get to school early to meet with your teachers so that you can work through whatever this problem is, then we have to play a part in that process too. So that's our job in it, but we're also supposed to make sure that we don't let them quit. You don't get to quit.
Right.
Just because it got tough. Life gets tough. You got to stay in there.
Right, because the more we give them excuses or let them quit, then the next time they really can't handle it. And the time when they're out of the house, they can't handle it, and you're not there.
That is so true. And like I said before, it's one of the mistakes that we sometimes make. We let them quit because we know that it's tough. And we want to make it easier for our babies. It's a mommy thing. It's a daddy thing sometimes. Well, daddies tend to do a little better with that.
They do. They've got a little more distance, stereotypically. Not
like,
always,
you know what?
but often.
To be a man, you're going to have to do some of these things. But as mommies, we are more likely to try to save them from the pressure. But the truth is, we have to guide them in the pressure, but we can't take them out of the pressure because they don't develop the muscles that they're going to need internally to hang in there in things that they're going to have to do when we're not there. So yes, you're absolutely right. We've got to make sure that they can navigate through those spaces effectively. But ultimately, in putting those things together, we give them what they need to be able to do a good job with their own lives.
Right.
And ultimately, that's what we all want as parents. We want our kids to win.
We do.
Absolutely.
Now, Alvean, are there some community resources that can help us with this as parents?
Absolutely, because like nothing happens without being able to really connect with your kids. So one of the things that we really focus on in Healthy Families is building those real connections, lasting and positive connections in the family, so that you can have the conversations about the tough things, because all of it is not going to be easy in the parenting process. But when you have the tools that you need, it really does help to deal with those challenging things in more effective ways. So we have a Strengthening Families class from age 5 to 13 that, really I think it goes all the way up to 17, but really an emphasis on being able to have those really deep conversations. And during some of those most important times,
those middle years, those
years,
tween and early teen years are such challenges.
It can be. And not every parent knows how to navigate it. And sometimes it worked great with your first kid and it's tough on the second one or the third one. So we're not expected to know everything. We're not supposed to be perfect as parents. We just have to figure out how to be better at what we need to do for our kids in new ways daily. So that's what we're here for. We're here to help parents do what they need to do and to achieve the results they want to achieve with their families more effectively. So I totally recommend the Strengthening Families classes, but we have an array for all the developmental levels, from literally our lambs class when your babies are teeny tiny, all the way through.
Because you have to keep that connection, and it changes.
Absolutely, right.
As our kids change, as we change, the relationship changes.
And we've got to evolve with them, and we've got to prepare to learn and grow sometimes at each of those stages in order to best support them.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you for watching. I hope you have paid attention to the tips to help your child become an MVP in life, in whatever form of life or activities they take on. Thanks for watching.